Transition services. I've had several questions about this already. In this section, you know, we have the 7 areas of transition services that students may need. The question comes up is, do I have to, in the past we had to put NA because it was already listed. I don't know if you've noticed, but this year I believe they're gone and you have to actually add the areas because that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's the way the state system is. What happens when you get to that page is you have to find the area you want. You click it, and then it gives you a drop-down menu of 60 different options under that area, okay, that you can choose from. So there's lots of activities, and what they've done is they've taken the one for the State WISTE project where we've put out those lists for years. Linda and I brought them around to all the high school people. We've sent them around. There's all the lists of possibilities you could do for related services, employment, and all the instruction, all those areas. It's a drop-down menu. It's the same one. You just click and go. The thing that you will have to do is still put down who's going to pay. Linda and I want to remind you that parents can do a lot of stuff working towards employment, but we do provide some activities in the school district of Waukesha dealing with transition. We do have people going out to some workshops and doing things out there. We do talk about employment in classrooms and talk to kids about how to fill out a resume, how to do interviews and things like that. Those are things that can be included there. We do community activities where students go to a bank and learn how to open up accounts and manage accounts and things like that. So there can be areas that we pay for. What you don't want to do is say we're going to pay for someone to get their driver's license. Okay, if you're saying that someone needs to get a driver's license, typically parents pay for that themselves. Although, I have known, and I think North High School had a person get a driver's license from DVR and a car. Okay? So DVR might pay for that. But you wouldn't want to say that unless DVR was saying, oh yeah, we're going to do that. Just something to think about. Well, yeah, it does say you may, but you should put who's going to pay. I mean, if it's not going to be the school district or somebody else that you're going to designate, you don't have to put the parents down because what they're saying is that would be assumed then. But that is one area where it says you may, where you want to, if it's something that we're going to do and we're paying for, we want to let parents know that that's something we're taking care of in school. If it doesn't say that, then we would, you know, why not just put parents in there? You know, just so that they know, or that the students paying for it themselves. Some things kids just don't have to pay for; they just do it. Another big question in this area is: do I have to do all 7? Do I do 1? Minimal is 1. Best practice is more than 1. But somewhere between, you know, probably 3 and 5 would be best practice in some cases with our kids with most significant disabilities who we know are going to end up in supported employment and supported work. You're probably going to be looking at almost all of the areas. In the time frame, and this is something that I'll just keep adding on. So when you go in there, you notice you click on the top box and you pick related services. It gives you a drop-down menu, you pick one, and you click Add. And then when you click Add, it allows you to put the dates, the year that it's going to happen, and it allows you to put in the information about who's paying for it, right? Now, the next time you go in, those are all going to be there. All you're going to do is add more. So they just keep adding on, like we always wanted to do, so you know all the things they do. So that's all I have to say about that. No.
Quick question for the years. I'm noticing that I can't edit, so if I'm doing an IEP in April, it's going to go into the next school year. It's only allowing me to do 2012, 2013, or 2013, 2014. Would I have to add it twice then?
I'm not understanding.
So it's only giving me the current school year option.
Oh,
It
it's
won't
only
let me-
giving you the
it won't
years
let
of the
me-
IEP.
Right, it won't let me edit
Yeah.
it into the next.
Right,
So I would have
right.
to put it into.
It wouldn't,
last
yeah,
year.
you wouldn't be able to say that you could do it, you're gonna do it your senior year or something, right?
Yeah.
Good question, write that down, put it on the board, and I'll ask that. But
Okay.
my understanding is that from playing with it, I know what you're talking about. I don't think I think they're talking about during the time frame of the IEP, what is the student gonna do?
Okay.
That's the best practice. I always liked putting things in there going forward, because you were talking about it, thinking about it, so you wouldn't forget. And that's, you know, something I gotta ask about. I didn't ask her yesterday. Okay. Linda, am I forgetting anything? Am I saying too much? You wouldn't tell me if I was. Going back to the outside agency. This is an area that's easy not to be compliant. Okay, and I just want to review a couple things because we reviewed this with the high schools, but we haven't really talked about it with some of the middle school and elementary teachers. Well, I guess it's all middle school now, sixth graders are there. You have to make that decision. You have to make sure that you invite the parent, invite the agency, but not before you get consent to invite them. That could be a big problem for you. And it's one of those things that's not a problem until it's a problem. Because once it's a problem, it's something you already messed up on. There's really no way to fix it. You know, someone's at an IEP meeting, the parents don't want them there, and they're mad. And how do you fix that problem? So have that conversation on the phone. Get the signatures if you can beforehand, but at least know that the parents know they're coming, and get that signature prior to that person entering the IEP meeting.
One possible time saver and helpful hint for this area would be to complete I-1As for the students that you are quite sure that agencies should be coming this year to those IEPs. Do it early in the year. Maybe even involve your students. Some of the teachers have actually had the students get those forms ready to go, have them fill out an envelope to send home, or as a writing project, or be responsible for taking them home and getting parent consent, and then you've got that on file. So that when it's now 2 weeks before your meeting, you had the consent back in September, you can then use that I-1A, you've got it on file, you use that as your proof that parent gave you consent to involve the agency.
I want to go to this bottom thing is, if you say one is likely to be used by a student, or is likely to serve a student, then you have to invite one. If you don't, that becomes a no and your IEP is non-compliant. That's not a question, there's not an if this or that, but that. If you say one will likely serve, then you have to say, yes, one was invited. We can't make them, can I finish talking first? If you can't make an outside agency come to an IEP meeting in a school, but we have to say that we invited them. If they attend, then they go into record that they attended. So if you say no, then you don't invite an outside agency because there's no reason for one to be there. So that it's, and you won't even be given the option, I believe, in the new system to do that. But in the old one, you could still check yes. And we saw that a lot. You'd say no one wasn't needed, but yet you still invited one, because I think we gave people the message, you have to have DVR at the meetings. You gotta have them there. You gotta have them there. You don't. For many students, they will never use an outside agency. Why would we waste our time? What you need to do is really consciously make that decision with the parent and the kid of what is needed. And I would say the older the kid gets, the more likely you're going to know. If you're going to err when they're 13, 14 and say, no, I get that, but when they're 17, 18, we better know. Don't make those mistakes. When they're, and if they're 19 and they're still in school, and they're doing sale, for instance, almost all of our sale kids are going to have outside services supporting them. Whether they're living in group homes or in social services or adult family care.
Clarification on that whole thing. So Karen Caesar has told us DVR typically does not come to freshman, sophomore IEP meetings unless it's a really, really unique situation. So we do not have to invite DVR, even though, because we have been told that, and we've been told any 14 and above, you gotta be marked in transition, you should be inviting DVR, and just indicate that they were invited but didn't come because they're not gonna come until their junior year.
If the student may use DVR, then you would check yes and you would invite. If they don't come, they don't come. If the student, you know for sure they're not, or a parent says, I'm not going to give consent because we're never going to use these services, then you don't. You don't have to if you say they're not going to be likely to attend. No. If you say one will not be needed, you don't answer the second question. You only answer the second question if you say yes. So that's why I'm telling you, got to say yes, yes, or you're not compliant. It's just...
So what you're saying then is, I mean, the default is, if you're talking 16 through 18-year-olds, the default is that you put yes down.
The default is you look at each case and determine if an outside agency is going to be likely involved in that kid's life after high school. If yes, you put yes. If no, you put no.
Okay. Yeah, we were pretty much told it was 16.
I understand that.
Along a while, I'll just give you a little bit of historical part about that. In the past, when we first started a lot of our focus on transition planning, no one was involved in DVR, or very few people were. And so the guidance we had from the agency was invite. Let families know about the agency. Now we're being recommended that do what's appropriate for each individual case.
Because I'll tell you that there's a lot of times that DVR doesn't show up even if they're...
That's fine.
Okay.
We did what we're supposed to do, which is to invite.
Okay.
And that's counselor specific too. Some counselors show up and some don't.
Name and names, but yeah.
Yeah, yep, and that's been the history of GVR since I started in the district 25 years ago. You got what you got, you get what you get, and you're stuck with it. Okay. I was going to give you time after this, but we're running out of time and I want to get you out of here. And I know most of you are working ahead. I want to talk about this and a couple other things. And if you want to stay until 2 to get some things, look at some more things, we can, and put questions up so that we can get them answered. I do appreciate your questions. And I don't have all the answers yet. I mean, it took me 3 weeks to get a hold of a lady from DPI to ask the few questions I have. You know, the parts about, there are parts in the demo that are going to be in the real one that aren't in the demo, of course. You can't, do some of the finishing process, the sending out to the district that we have to figure out. So that is what it is, and when we get the information, it'll be given to you the best we can. I'm attempting to create a website, a Google site that you will have available, and it will have the videotape from today, so that if you want to go back and quote me, say, but Bruce, you said this, you can go back there. It'll have the PowerPoint, it'll have some of the sites that will be important for you to use listed there so you can